So I just finished the book Original Sin by Jake Tapper, and like a lot of people on the right, I feel like some of my reaction to reading this book was like, oh, what? You mean President Biden wasn't like doing very well and wasn't totally all there and was like kind of failing in his health? That's so shocking. Oh, I never knew. But setting aside kind of some of my cynicism towards the book and everything, I tried to approach it with an open mind and tried to approach it in good faith as much as I could, with just kind of everything surrounding that situation. But there really were two things that I came away from it with that really kind of have just sat with me since then, because they bring to light this idea that no matter how much you may disagree with someone politically, or on what the future looks like, or what the problems of the world are and what the solutions to those problems are, or any of that kind of stuff, at the end of the day, like, the people that you would disagree with are still human, and they still deserve love, they still deserve compassion, they still deserve kindness, right? There's a guy that I follow on YouTube, Myron Golden, that says all the time, he's like, I'm not nice, but I am kind. I don't care to be nice to people, but I do want to be kind to people. I want to follow the example that Jesus has set and actually care for and love even my enemies and even the people that I disagree with. And so the two things that really stick out for me from this book was, one, I didn't know very much about Biden's history kind of pre-becoming president, and just how much stuff he went through in his life, and this idea of just get up, and this whole really lifelong story of, dude, he got knocked down and he got back up. He got knocked down, he got back up. Somebody died, he got back up. Something terrible happened, he got back up. And he really has this very resilient story of continuing on despite tragedy and despite hard times and despite just things going wrong and just life being hard. And that was a very like inspirational thing to me, even with the idea of like, hey, I don't agree with a lot of what you were getting up and going on to do. Still, the very fact that you would get up after these painful things and after these huge setbacks and all this kind of stuff made it much more understandable and much more human for me of just reading the story of being at this place where you have become such an old man now at this point that you've hit this challenge that is unbeatable, that you can't actually defeat anymore. It reminds me a lot of my granddad. My granddad's 94 years old, and he's hitting health things now. He's been healthy his whole entire life, and he's just hitting health things now that are like, dude, you're 94 years old. No matter how you spin it, like, this problem, you're not going to defeat it. Like, you're past the point of being able to defeat some of these things, and you're going to have to learn how to be defeated gracefully. And so that gave me just a lot of perspective and a lot of understanding, kind of, and compassion towards President Biden and towards his family, in that sense, of the people that surrounded him. Because I think of my granddad and I'm like, dude, I've only ever seen him just destroy everything that ever stood in his way. Anything that ever came against him, like, it hasn't been able to withstand just the force of nature that is granddad. And I think about, man, imagine myself in this position where now I'm starting to deal with these things that, for the first time in my life, Granddad is hitting a problem that he's not going to be able to overcome, and that he is going to have to admit defeat in. And that's a really hard thing to do, right? And so that piece of it, just the story of how much President Biden had overcome throughout his whole life, was really, really inspiring to me. I got to admit, like, again, not agreeing with almost hardly anything that he did from the getting up and going and doing it, still the very fact of that resilience was very inspiring to me. The second thing that really just kind of stuck with me as far as just humanity goes is it's very easy for people on the right to, and I watched Megyn Kelly had an interview with Jake Tapper, like the first interview kind of about this book, and she really railed on him about, like, dude, obviously you knew, obviously you were complicit in the cover-up, obviously. And the thing that in the assuming the best position, right, about people involved with this on the actual political side and then on the media side, the thing about it that is hard to admit and remember when you're on the side of like, oh yeah, gee, shocker, obviously we knew that all along, right, is just how able and willing human beings are to deceive ourselves, right? And to make ourselves believe things that we want to believe regardless of the evidence set out in front of us. And so what I came away from this book with was just a lot more of a reminder of, like, in the best sense and in the best light, I genuinely think that there were people that were just completely deceiving themselves and didn't even know that they were deceiving themselves. And one of the things that the Christian worldview offers is this humility to go like, dude, I am just as susceptible to deceiving myself and not recognizing it as you are. Right? And so it's this view of looking at it and going, okay, maybe in the best possible sense, in the best possible light, some of these people weren't even aware of what they were doing. They were literally just so bought into what the story that they needed to be true that they weren't even aware that they were deceiving themselves. And there, but for the grace of God, go I. Right? And it brought me away. That first point brought me away with a lot more compassion than I had to everyone involved, especially President Biden himself. And then that second point kind of just helped me walk away with just a humility and a reminder of the humility necessary to walk out this life, because humans are so easily deceived. We're so easily just caught in these traps of believing whatever it is that we want to believe, regardless of any of the evidence around us. And I do think that there was a lot of people that genuinely read this and are shocked. And I think it's disingenuous on the part of the people who are not shocked and who are like, dude, obviously we saw this the whole time, to just assume malfeasance and just any negative thing about these other people. And I think there's some humility that needs to come with looking at the people who this is like kind of a genuine shock to, and just giving them the grace to be like, yeah, you know what? That's okay. You were massively deceived. I've been massively deceived. I'll probably be massively deceived again at some point in my life, unless I continue to walk in humility and continue to walk in a desire for a state of grace, right? So anyways, yeah, interesting book. I don't know. If you're interested in it, read it, go to the library and get it. I don't think it's worth $30 to get. About the only things that I really come out of it for someone, if you already had the view of like, well, yeah, obviously this was going on. That's just blatantly obvious, if you watch any of the footage of this, about the only thing that comes out of it is just more of an understanding and a deeper revelation of how broad all of this was and how deep it all went and how insidious it all was. But yeah, don't think it's one worth buying. Probably worth one worth grabbing from the library if you want. But yeah, as you read it, like I say, keep an eye out and keep an open mind and an open heart towards compassion to the people involved, and then towards humility to know that, dude, you know what? For the people that genuinely were deceived by this, and this genuinely was a shocking thing to them, like I could be that person so easily, right? So just walking in humility from that. So there you go. Original Sin, Jake Tapper. I think that's all I got for now. See you in the next one.